So it's time to learn about the other methods that we have inside our Express app. And for that, we need to have this tool called Postman. You can come inside this postman.com and you can simply download for different operating softwares like Windows, Mac and Linux. For example, if you just go to this and you can select the chip of your Mac or Apple device, and once you are going to download this, you are going to have this kind of an application. And we don't need to go through any installation setup to have this Postman. You can simply have it once you are going to download this. And let me zoom in a bit and let's see how we can use it. So this is just like the browser, but you can do different kind of things than browser here. Now from this drop down, we can select the different methods that we can use. As you can see, previously we used the get method. Now we have the post, put, pass, delete and the head. So let's go to the get method and let's try to go to the localhost 8000. So this is going to be our home route. So I'm going to send the request and I'll get that same JSON response back message. This is the message that is coming from our server. Now we can simply change it to post, and once this is going to be the post request, you can also attach the body. So if you come inside the body tab, you can simply go to the different type of body that you can add here. As you can see, let's go with the raw data, and instead of this text, let's go to the JSON data, because this is the same data type that we will use to send data to our backend and to get the information from inside the backend. And now here, I'm just going to add few of these data. Now because this is going to be JSON data, we need to have them inside the double quotation mark. Okay, so let's just send the name, email and the password. So these are the data that I want to send to my backend server. So name, email and password. And if I send this right now, I'm just going to get the error back because right now we're not listening to any post request for our home route. So let's come inside our application and we are going to duplicate this request or the entire block of code where we are handling the get request, but this time you can simply change it to post. And because we are listening to the home route, I can simply leave it like this. And now from here we can simply send the response back like we did earlier, but we also want to read all of those information that we are sending, like name, email and password. And we don't know how to do this, right? So for that, let's come inside this Google and let's try to search for this one, how to read data from Express post request. Okay, now if I search this, then here you can see we have this new thing, generative AI, built directly inside this Google Chrome. And you can see we have all these things. So we can have this Express, we already have this Express, and we can install this new thing called body parser, and we can use this body parser.json like this, and this is going to give us those information inside this request.body. But let's try to do just this request.body. Now we got the thing like we will get the information inside this request.body, right? Let's try to log it to the console. So request.body, and let's see what we will get without that body parser. And this time this message is going to be different. This message is coming from post request. Now let's save this file, open a terminal, and whatever thing that we are going to log from here, that will come inside a terminal, right? So I'm going to come inside this Postman and I will send the request and I'll get the response back. This is coming from inside that post request, as you can see. Now if I come inside this application, we have this request.body and this is undefined. Now if we just use all these code, we are going to get those information inside our request.body, but we also want to understand what this app.use is and what this body parser.json function is doing. And once we are going to understand this concept inside Express.js, then you can almost create any server in using Express.js. So for that, let's try to understand these things. Now we want to have those information inside this request.body, but we got the undefined. Now if we use the body parser function or install that package, we are going to get this information, right? But let's try to rebuild those things on our own. So for that, what I'm going to do, because we know that whatever information that we are sending from inside our front-end application, that will be inside our request object. So inside this request, we can add these event listeners. Like we can do document.add event listener to the mouse down or keyboard down or all those kind of things, right? And this is the same kind of a concept, but this is going to be request. And here, instead of that add event listener, here we have this on. And when you want to set this event, so this event is going to be, as you can see, we have a bunch of these options. and we are going to go with the data. So whenever we are going to have data inside our request, we want to fire this function. So as you can see, as soon as I try to pass this function right here, I will get this as a listener, and inside here I'll get this thing called chunk, and this function doesn't need to return anything. So let's just call it chunk, and let's log this chunk to the console. Okay, I'll just save this file, and instead of sending this JSON response from right here, now because we want to fire this callback first, so we have to move it inside here, inside this callback. Once we are going to log this to the console, then we are going to send the response back. Let's save this file, open our terminal, and I'm going to send the request again to that same endpoint, and we got that message back. But now instead of undefined, we are getting something. We got this thing called buffer data. So it means we have all those data that we are sending in a chunk form. Now we want to gather all those buffer data, right? So for that, what you can do, you can simply use this JSON.parse method. And once we are going to parse our chunk data or this buffer data, we are going to get that same exact thing. Let's just send this request again. And if we come inside here, then you can see we have the name, email, and the password. And with this, we learn to read the data that is coming from our front-end application. But now again, if I try to log that request.body to the console, I will get undefined. So if I send the request again, if I come here, I got this from inside this line, and this is undefined, and this is coming from inside that request.body. But if you come inside this example again, there you can see we will get this information inside this request.body, right? And for that, it is using this function called bodyparser.json using this use method. So what is this? This is called a middleware function. So we need to now understand about the middleware function, and once we are going to understand that, we'll also understand how the data that is coming from inside our front-end application is going to come inside this request.body. And as I already mentioned, once we are going to understand these two things, like how to handle request and how to handle or how to use middleware functions, then we will be able to create any kind of a server or application that you want to create using Express.js. So I'll come in the next video and I'll try to explain about this thing or this concept called middleware.